Welcome to the Wellness for Women show, where we talk about life, weight loss and everything in between. I'm Faye Caseman, founder of the AAA Way Life and Weight Loss Programme, and I'm here to help you put together the pieces of life and weight loss for one last time. This is an episode of the Wellness for Women show, filmed live in the free Facebook group. Hello, and welcome to the Wellness for Women show. And this week we have a special guest joining us, the lovely Jacqueline Kent. Jacqueline and I have collaborated on bundles before, and today she's here to talk to us about quantum human design. And Jacqueline is a multi-passionate award winner, no less, entrepreneur from Nottingham, wears many hats: a mum, wife, carer, author, speaker, and coach / cheerleader. And I say quantum human design is her tool of choice, where she seeks to inspire soulful entrepreneurs to up-level their embodiment and show up as who they truly are in the world. And who doesn't want to do that anyway? I mean, obviously, when we start a business, we're always advised to niche. And obviously, you're looking at entrepreneurs, but like even as all of us human beings, isn't it? That's what we want, really, to be and feel authentic, I guess. So even more important when you're looking to be when you're an entrepreneur and running a business.
Very much so. And I think that it is a theme that I've noticed over time where it's like we're kind of being divided at the moment between those of us who just literally want to be known for who we are. And then the other kind of business people who are trying to be something they're not. And that's not calling anybody out. It's just that's what. And that's one of the things that I love about this modality. There are many things, but I mean, I call it a modality. It's so much more than that. But it is really about understanding the essence of who you are so that you can align with that in so many different ways. And then you almost can't help but just start to step into the shoes of who that person is. Some of it has been underlying underneath the surface, and you're like, well, that feels like me, but I don't understand it, so I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go there. Then when you hear it as like a real confirmation from this other source, it's like, oh, actually, it is okay for me to be like that because that's part of who I am.
Yeah.
And it does give you like this huge permission slip to be who you know you are at the core.
Yeah. And I think I can see how that kind of happens as well. I know when I started my entrepreneurial journey, I started off in life coaching, then qualified in relief coding, but I wanted to, I just wanted to help at the end of the day. And I just assumed that if I turned up on Facebook and said, hey, like coach, I've been fully booked. Sorely mistaken. But what I didn't realize was, I didn't realize that I needed to market in sales for starters. And I think that's the bit where the authenticity and being yourself possibly gets a little bit stuck. It's like we all want to do the thing, whatever it is that we're trying to do, and and if you're in a heart-led space, you're just wanting to help people, heal them, do whatever it is that we do to help people in their life. But it's the marketing and sales part. And when you're in the online space as well, there's so many messages out there. Do this, do that, do high ticket. No, do low ticket. No, do that, do the other. And I don't know whether you agree, and feel free to not agree, but I think we get so bamboozled by all of the marketing and sales advice almost. Then we're like, well, I'm not allowed to be myself. I'm not just like, for example, I always wanted a membership. Countless people told me that I shouldn't have a membership, that I should sell high ticket and only high ticket, to the point where it knocks into your self-belief and your beliefs. And I probably lost a good year of my entrepreneurial journey listening to other people. And then in the end, I was just like, oh, to hell with that. You know what? Even if I don't want to necessarily be one of these people who has 10K months and all these kind of things. If it happens, but I will just want to grow a business that suits me in a way that suits me. And we're going to dive into my chart in a minute. Jacqueline's got my chart.
Like, I'm bursting to tell you some things as you're talking. I'm like, tick. It's great. And actually, so that is one of the things, I think being in this space, like having a personal brand
Mm.
is so, like, there are so many things that go with it. We want to do what we're passionate about. We want to help the people that we're passionate about helping.
Mm.
And if we're not passionate about marketing and all that other stuff, then we get stuck. We get seriously stuck, and we follow various different people who've got different ideas.
Mm.
And either, that gets us moving again, or it gets us in another place where we feel like, I don't belong here because it's not aligned really. If
Yeah.
you're not recognizing that it's not aligned, then it can be really hard to know how to get unstuck from that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you start to think that you're the person that's wrong because you see all these people telling their success stories. And so then you think that you're the problem. And actually, it's just that it's not in alignment. And again, it's not that any of these things are right or wrong. It's not wrong to have a membership. It's not wrong to do high ticket. It's just that for me, it's very much about finding your own path. And the same way that I teach my ladies who are working on their relationship with food, it's like, you've got to find your own path. Don't try and pigeonhole yourself into a particular diet when it doesn't necessarily.
And it's the same with so many things, and that is a classic just around being an entrepreneur in general. Being somebody who's a business owner, we are really not designed to be good at everything. Like, that's not the point of this, and we have to try and learn how to be good at the things that we don't really want to do, but we need to do, get out in front of people. And that then kind of like dampens down the fire of the thing that really drives us forwards. So it's like, I just want to be where I want to be, in front of the people I want to be with, and just, show my brilliance, showcase my unique skill set. And it's not as simple as that.
No.
And sometimes it's that kind of like just add like more baggage to the weight that you're carrying around of, I've already got this responsibility of running a business. But we could talk about that, or like, I think we're lot drained.
The same with all of this, as I was saying a minute ago, that don't have an official time limit, but it's so easy once you get talking to talk forever. Especially when we are passionate people and passionate about people, passionate about the things that people do, how they do them, how they tick, and we're probably very similar in that sense, isn't it? Obviously, you're looking at it from a human design point of view. I'll look at that, and I know that that's not necessarily just all that you do, but like, I'm then looking at it from different way down. Yeah, ultimately, we're all looking at the same thing, which is human.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and understanding what makes them tick, so when they're doing something that isn't going to make them tick, is like, oh, actually, if I just let you know that you're probably doing something from your programming, from your conditioning, from all of that stuff that you think is right versus what you feel is right, and it just, it's knowing that stuff to start with, though, isn't it? It's knowing, is that part of who I am, or am I thinking it, or am I feeling it, or am I this, or am I that? And, and then we get stuck in the overwhelm of trying to figure it all out. So I'm thinking what would be really helpful, first of all, before we go straight to look at your chart, because I do, I'm looking forward to showing that. Well, about the difference. So to explain about human design and then add on that extra layer that helps you understand the difference between that and quantum human design, because this is one of the most powerful things that I love about it. So are we called to do that now, do you think? Should we?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Tell us all about it. And I know the phrase, I hear different phrases going around, but after that, I'm not. So just keep going and tell me everything.
And one of the, I can tell you before we get started, you are someone who's designed to go down rabbit holes. So, like, just be okay with that for the moment, and I'll share why in a moment.
That's how to become
exactly. So human design was discovered, downloaded as a system of self-knowledge in about January 1987, by a man called Alan Krakauer. His spiritual name is Ra Urahu. And over a period of 8 days and 8 nights, after meditating, he connected with these light beings that gave him this powerful system of self-knowledge that brought together the Hindu chakras, Eastern and Western astrology, the Judaic Kabbalah, the Chinese I Ching, and quantum physics. All of those systems came together to give like a really multi-dimensional view of how a person has come to be who they are. Some of it is about what's happened 3 months before your birth, when the imprints that have come through imprint your soul energy. And then when you're actually born, the imprints that happen at that time are what give you like the conscious knowledge and awarenesses, things that you will be much more aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And in understanding what that looks like in your human design chart, you're able to start to recognize the aspects of you that are you and also that are not you. So in traditional human design, a very common term that you may well have heard is something called the not self. And that is very much about recognizing the aspects of you that don't feel true to you. And understanding those is really empowering because it helps you to say, okay, so if that's my not self theme playing out, this is not who I'm designed to be. There's a like a sign or something. So each of the different energy types has these signature themes that are all about, this is to recognize you're off track. This is to recognize how you're right on cue for where you're kind of headed. Are we making sense so far? I have a thing when I start talking, I'm like, blah, blah, blah. So that's the traditional human design. And what actually happened is that, so my mentor, who's an international, she's very well known, she's published many books, a lady called Karen Curry Parker. She actually worked alongside Uruhu, and he unfortunately passed away in 2011. But during that time, she was very aware that he recognized that there was a need for something that wasn't about the parts that we didn't have, but spoke to the potential. And so in knowing that, she made part of her mission finding a way to recraft that language. And I know that you said that there's sometimes you see lots of different references to it and they're called different things. That's other people putting their own spin on the language because it's here for all of us. And that was one of the things that was recognized. And what Karen Curry Parker and her team actually did was they took the traditional language, they took all of her years of experience and knowledge, they took all of this into a laboratory and identified the highest frequency of those languages that really landed and spoke to the potential of the energy of who you came here to be. So that when you hear that language, it goes, oh, number, and you'll have seen this because you've downloaded your free report, which is part of what we're going to be looking at today. The manifesting generator, which when I first heard that, which was the beginning of 2022, I was like, oh my God, I'm a manifesting generator. That's so cool. No idea what any of it meant, just running around going, I'm a manifesting generator. And that's, quite a common thing. We kind of like, yay, I have another thing that I can say that this is part of who I am. And that was fine. But he didn't really explain to me much about the way that I move through the world. In quantum human design, I am, and so are you, what's known as a time bender. And, when you know that the way that you do things is kind of like you can be multi-skilled, multi-talented, multitasking. You are designed to multitask. So we'll look at all of that when we properly look at your chart. That's about a third of the population, by the way. We are here doing that work in the world. And that is part of our purpose, is to speed things up so that we can move forward in a way that is beneficial for the collective. So that just explains a bit about the difference. And when I came to look at training and doing all of that stuff, I was like, I don't see the point in going to that old style. To me, it felt much more aligned to go with the quantum version. And so I straight in, started doing certification training. There are different levels of it. And for me, because it was quite new to me, because there's always, for all of us, deconditioning work to be done, I was like, I am going to consciously not just go get this level, then do the next level, then do the next level. I've gone up to level 2 and now I'm just integrating and learning through my own wisdom and my own experiences so that I can share those versus all of the information that you can learn as you go through it all. And so that's how I've been doing things. And that also means that I get to speak to people who are maybe just a couple of steps behind me and figuring their own stuff out as well. So that worked really well. Any questions so far? I'm going to take a quick swig of my tea.
I do have one question in terms of so is it more of that this is sort of set, or do you become this? Because I feel like I changed. I had a huge change in me when I was about 40, and I was 46 yesterday. So I don't know whether, but I don't know whether that was just because I was holding everything down and in until that point, or whether I changed, if that makes sense. Because obviously, if I feel like I changed, but maybe I just let my authentic self out a bit more. But that time bending, I mean, I've always been a doer. I've always been somebody who's worked hard and sought to be efficient, but mostly that was out of perfectionism and fear of judgment and all these kinds of things that I realised myself by doing all the inner work. But yeah, sometimes I do feel like it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So something that's been kind of showing up a lot more recently is that what we're recognizing is that a lot of people, when they resonate with the traditional language, they probably got a way to go, or a further way to go. So those that resonate more with that higher frequency language are just kind of slightly further along on their journey. So it's about a healing process of getting in touch with and connecting with the essence of who you are. It was interesting that you said around the age of 40, because there are themes throughout that tie in with the planetary themes, that tie in with astrology, that tie in with what happened in the story of your chart, because you can use your chart as a storytelling tool for what your journey has looked like over time. And around the age of 40, that is when one of the energies goes from what you're moving away from to what you're moving towards. So it's the nodes. They're actually north and south nodes. North is like your North Star. That's like the way that you are destined to be going. And around 40, that is when all of that kind of comes into play. So I found that really interesting when you said that. And there are other themes as well that we often see playing out at different points in people's lives. And when roughly around 50, there's a thing, roughly around 30, there can be a thing. And it's like, okay. And for me, I know looking back, as I say, so I'm 49, I was 49 a few weeks ago. I know that looking back around 40 was huge for me, huge. And understanding some of why that has been, as well as my own experiences and everything else that had been going on at the time, I'm like, okay, yeah. But then when I also go back to around 30, I'm like, oh, that's what it was. I was meant to be learning something and I didn't learn it all. So that lesson has continued. And it's just so interesting. But these are the kind of things that you find out when you go really, really deep into the chart. But there's a load of stuff we can look at even just right now. Even just at a quick glance, I was looking at your chart before we kind of jumped on the call. I was like, oh. So it's great. So it'll be interesting to see how you, I guess, respond. Some of the things that I'll share with you. What I'm going to share it, but I'm going to try and do it so I can still see your screen as well. And I'm not sure if I can make that work. But if I present your report, so it's your chart basically here. Where is it gone now? We did have it open, didn't we? Oh, it's that one. It's all right, it's me. We are. So yeah, I'm trying to see if I can split them on the screen, but I don't think it will.
See, this is the people on have the podcast aren't necessarily going to be able to see my chart, but obviously if you really want to see my actual chart and you're listening to the podcast, then obviously hop over to the YouTube. But Jacqueline's obviously going to talk us through it anyway, so hopefully.
Yeah. So this is great. So what I've done it has actually only been just the last 2 weeks, is I've upgraded what I've been putting out there into the world, so that the free thing that brings people into my world is the end that probably. Oh, are you all right there? What happened there? I can't hear you and your videos got stuck. What have we done? Hang on, let's try that. Are you still there? I'm going to wait. Let me stop sharing. Oh, what happened there? Doing it, yeah.
That's all right. We're and splice it together. Buffering.
Oh no, that's fine. I thought I'll wait, because it looked as if you'd knocked something over or something like that, and I thought, no,
No, give me time, I will. Is that it's like clumsy in the chart. What objects easily.
Oh, well, I've got lots to share with you. So let's do the share again. Right.
Mhm.
Okay. There we are. Right. Here we are. We're now looking at your Okay, so this is the front page of the report. So one of the things, as I was saying, that I've been doing the last couple of weeks is making sure that what people get when they first find themselves on my website is much more personal, really speaks to them. So this, if you are somebody who is going to download a report, this is the first page that you will see. You have a quick summary, and then you have your actual chart as the next page. And I'm just going to shrink that down a little so you can see the whole thing. Can you see all of that on here?
Mhm.
Yeah. So what we tend to do when we go through a reading is we actually look at the main foundational pieces first, because they're always really insightful to know, depending on where you're at on your journey, but to understand about your energy type. So as the manifesting generator or time bender type, you are somebody who is designed to multitask. You move very quickly in the way that you do things in the world. You have the kind of energy that means it can be complicated for you if people interrupt you. You
Mhm.
can feel as though if somebody comes along and interrupts your flow, like your creative flow, you're in that zone and you're bringing all your brilliance into the world. Somebody wants to answer a question about something, or even ask you what's going to be for tea tonight, or any of those things, that can be a real trip up for you. So depending on how you engage with that can be really beneficial for others to know. And what we talk about in this is part of your strategy with that manifesting part of the energy, because that's where this flow comes in, is about informing people.
Mhm.
So that is about letting people know I'm doing something that I really don't want to be interrupted. So can it wait? Any of those sorts of things like that are really helpful, but also for you to let others know what you're up to, because your energy moves so fast. Sometimes it can feel like you maybe take people out on your way around as you're moving through the world. So that's the first piece. That's just like a very quick. Another thing to know about the generator types. So because yours is a blend of two different energy types, that generator energy, there is a theme of frustration, finding you getting to a point where you may be somebody who is doing something and it felt like it was going somewhere, and all of a sudden it's like you stopped and maybe you started overthinking, and then because of that you took yourself out of that action place, and maybe you actually gave up on something just before it was about to reach its peak and become a thing out in the world. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, both of those do. It's interesting that I had exactly that conversation last night with my daughter with
Right.
regards to interrupting me, because sometimes she'll come in and she'll just start the conversation willy nilly, and I'm just like, whoa, that was just like, I was in the middle
A warning. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
And literally said that same thing to her last night. I said that I'm conscious that I'm not in the right space. If you know, ever since my coaching journey and getting that awareness about myself, and then being able to talk to her about that and about who I am and how I work, and it changed our relationship dramatically. You know, we've gone through the whole of the teenage years effectively with very little. I was scared, petrified about the teenage years, and our relationship has just gone from strength to strength. I put that a lot down to me, knowing her, communicating, like you say, you know, and just trying to get ahead of that communication curve was a big thing. So you're absolutely right. And yes, I can get into a situation where suddenly get my ass in my baggage that something's not working, and then feel overwhelmed, and then want to quit. And I think that is also the life of an entrepreneur.
That was
So I feel that definitely in my entrepreneurial journey for sure.
And
Yeah.
it does. And you know, a lot of these themes show up in more places than we even realize. Once you kind of know about it, you're like, oh, that's why that particular thing in my life didn't come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, especially for manifesting generators or the time bender types, because we have so much doing energy, sometimes we actually pick things up that are purely there for the purpose of burning off some of that excess.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it is literally just about, I have so much energy, it needs to go somewhere. So I'm going to start something, I maybe not finish it. And it's just about recognizing which of those things are playing out so that you can recognize that. With what makes you the generator type. So there, as I said, so there's 5 different types. You have the manifesting generator is about a third of the population. Then you have the generator types as well, who are about another third. Now, each of those, so 70% of the population, has this square here, the sacral center, defined in their chart. And what that means is it's like workforce, life force energy. So it's all about creation. It's all about family. It's all about work. It's all about being one of those doing like machine.
Mm-hmm.
And the work that we are here to do is not, just thinking about work. It's the work of the world. It's the work to keep everything moving forward, and connecting with that as what they call your inner authority. So this is another foundational piece. There are different types of authority in the chart, and with yours as a sacral being, you may recognize that there are some things that come along. You're like, I feel really like energetically like I'm moving towards this. It feels good in my body. And in those times, that's when you get to know this is something that, for whatever reason, is meant for me. So it helps you to understand how to make aligned decisions and learn to trust those decisions. You're also going to notice, so you might have it sounding like for the yes kind of sounds. So the sacral only knows a yes or a no, and the no might be like, it's like a pull back kind of energy where you're like I'm really not feeling that. You know how you have those instinctive knowings and you either choose to listen to them or sometimes you don't. That is, another thing that I know for me, understanding that and understanding some, quite frankly, awful decisions that I've made over time. Have I paid attention or known or any of that stuff? And it was obviously there for me to learn something. Had I done that, things might have played out quite differently. And I'm okay with that now. I've made my peace, but it might look like where you start going, oh my God, maybe I wouldn't have had that terrible relationship or done that job that I just didn't even want to be in. And it made me feel sick turning up to it every morning and things like that, where you're just like, you're doing it because you think you should. A little bit like what we spoke about with the entrepreneurial stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, feel free to fill in. I'm just going to finish my cup before it goes cold.
Yeah, I think that one's something that maybe is an area that I need to work on more. I'm not sure that I do listen to my gut and necessarily have those pulls, although it's quite interesting that I say in my 40s, what I got introduced to was intuitive eating, which is about, listening to yourself, listening to your body a lot more. And it's something that with the belief coding, so that's sort of a more recent, that's really only in the last year or so of really going inside and trusting what I'm kind of hearing back and helping me to develop that. Whereas I think I was definitely somebody who blocked down a lot, and so it's kind of like need to be reawakened, I guess.
Yeah. And that as well is very common. So one of the things that we've been taught, so the way that I've been trained, this is why we are trained to literally start with the foundations and then you get to build on those. We get people coming to us with, well, what do these numbers mean? And what about this? And what about this? And where's this in my chart? And it's like, I can tell you all of that. That is absolutely not a problem. However, without these other pieces in place, it's not really going to be in a place where it can really land for you and help you make big changes in your life, which is what people are often looking for when they come for these sessions. The sacral response thing, I'm totally with you on that. And I'm definitely still on my own journey with it. One of the things that I've started doing is just allowing myself to use sound, like just as a response to something. And I notice it a lot when I'm in coaching sessions, whether it's mine or somebody else's. And another thing that you can also do is ask yourself really simple yes or no questions throughout the day and notice how you feel in the response to it. So, do I want tea? Do I want coffee? And feel what that feels like for you. The other thing that I'm going to say about it for you, and I have something similar in my chart, there are quite a few similarities. This center here, this is the spleen center, and this is all about the energy that's here to keep us, to protect us, to help us take care of ourselves. But it's intuitive, in the moment knowing, like literally right then and there. And you have a lot of energy around that here in your chart, which means that you will have those senses of knowing. But again, a little bit like you've just described, it's about learning to trust them, learning to get to know that, if I'm feeling that, there's a very good chance that that's right for me. And what happens if I then follow up on it with an action? So that's a really interesting one to sort of just explore.
Yeah.
And then, so, generally speaking, and as I say, when we're first starting out, we look at your energy type, the strategy. So the manifesting generator, there's a little bit around exploring what's possible, visualizing the stuff, and then something comes along that you respond to. So sometimes that means you're waiting until something lands in front of you and you go, oh, and the demonstration of this that I like to give, and I love telling this story because it speaks so much to me about how it works when you're not even expecting it to. So before I'd learned properly about human design, and I'd been trying to find out about all the numbers and the gates and the this and that and the other, and I'd been thinking about maybe human design is something I want to add to my toolkit. And I'd been going, I wonder if that is me. I wonder if that's my wanting to have something else that I just train in, because that's what we do. We love to learn that stuff. And I'll look at what that shows up like for you in a moment. But I was just like exploring it and going, yeah. And then I started getting these emails through from Karen Curry Parker, because I've been watching some of her videos, and they had this sale on for people who wanted to train as it. And I was like, oh, playing around with the idea. And then I did the informing piece, because that's another piece of the strategy. I had a conversation with my husband that went something like this. Are you really sure you need any more certifications? Me going, that with me, I'll have to think about it. And I was just like, the only way I could describe it was that I felt like I was being called. Felt like I was being called to step up. And I just, slightly behind closed doors, signed up, told him about it later. He was absolutely fine about it. But it was like, I trusted my own judgment so much in that I knew it wasn't going to be an issue. Whereas in the past, it would have been like, maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't do this, maybe that, and asking all the questions. And so it was a really beautiful demonstration of me getting in touch with my intuition and following that strategy to the letter, even though I didn't know it.
Yeah.
And so then I went on and signed up, and, it's been an amazing journey, and so many brilliant things have happened, including one-to-one session with Karen Crowe Parker, meeting her in person, winning an award for being myself, and all of that kind of stuff that's come through as a model of somebody who's here to be authentic. So I enjoy that. I enjoyed telling those stories. So so you have your energy type, your strategy, which we've just been talking about, that inner authority, which is that sacral response. So that's something that it's always helpful to know, that human design is here to be experienced as an experiment. It is not of rules. It is not a way to go, I do this, then I do this, then I do this. You literally try things on, see what happens, see how things show up, see how they feel, see what comes along, see what goes away, like just see how your energy then actually starts moving differently. And then the other piece that we also look at is what's known as your profile lines. So in your chart, you will have, and I'll show you what this looks like on the summary piece. So it explains about your energy type, about that strategy piece, about your authority, and about your profile. So where these numbers come from on your chart, back down to here, you see 31.1 and 41.1. That 0.1 is part of your profile line. So you have a conscious line 1 energy. That's like your soul purpose energy. In the line 3, this is a more unconscious thing, because it's on this other side. This is the one that's about 3 months before you were born. That's where all of these energy definitions come from. That 0.3 has a different story. So each of those play out slightly differently. The line 1 is somebody who's known as the resource or the investigator in traditional language. So you are somebody who loves to disappear off down those rabbit holes. You are somebody who really does you have an energetic need to know more. It's about bringing stability and a foundation of knowledge that you're able to build on, but also other people come to know you for. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah. Well, it worked. They used to call me Yoda because I knew everything. And the reward set behind me from that it works.
I actually, again, way before human design, I've been serving my email list for almost 4 years now. I wrote an email that said, "Did you know I'm more powerful than Google?" I never quite grasped why people were always coming to me instead of Googling things. And it's exactly that. Because they know you and trust you, they would rather ask you than go and find it out for themselves. For me, learning this was honestly transformative because it gave me, again, this permission slip to be someone who genuinely has this need to know the things. So instead of telling myself this story of, oh my God, I never settle with anything, I'm always looking for something else, I always want to know this, I'm off down the rabbit holes and I'm doing all of the things. And now I'm like, no, that's actually a big part of the reason why I'm here. I'm here to help others feel safe and feel stable and secure in their knowledge, in their knowing, in what they're here to learn. And that for me was just like incredible. And so was the other piece about the line 3. The line 3 is somebody who has pretty much tried everything, is the experimenter. So in traditional human design, it's actually known as the martyr. It's a little bit like we sacrificed ourselves over trying to figure out everything so that everybody else doesn't have to. Trying things on, picking them up, putting them down again, so that we can get to say, I tried that and it didn't work, or I did that in a way that meant I learned this. Let me share that with you. Now, you may or may not as much resonate with that because it's, as I say, it's an unconscious energy. That means that other people will recognize it more about you than you probably see for yourself. Does that sound hard to say?
No, I think that's probably about right. I've certainly tried I felt like I've tried every diet under the sun, tried every craft under the sun. Like say, something comes along, like I say, I'm genuinely excited to have the conversation with you today because I'm like, oh, what is this thing? No. And so I guess the two of those almost go a little bit hand in hand because in wanting to know everything, you can't necessarily do everything at the same time. So then it can lead to flitting about a bit.
Absolutely that. So one of the things that we know about these two lines, so you have, as I say, you have 1 to 3 and 4 to 6. 1 to 3 is all about learning from your own personal story, experience, and experiment. 4 to 6 is learning it out in the world. So because you've got both of those, it's like one of them needs to try it to make sure they know how it works, and the other one needs to find everything out first. And then like there's this dance between, well, actually, which one is it going to be today? And just letting your intuition kind of guide you that little bit more. So each of them have their own different way of moving through the world. And knowing that about yourself is like, okay, so, now that I have this information, what can I do in a way that feels a bit more aligned with that, allowing myself? For me, it's shown up like, okay, so I'm here to talk about human design, to share about it and help other people learn. In the past, I would have probably been like, okay, but the thing is, I feel like I don't know enough yet, so I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm going to wait till I've got every certificate under the sun for it. And now I've gone, oh, no, I need to learn by demonstrating, by sharing, by practicing, by putting it out there, by seeing what didn't work so I could try it and do it differently next time. I've moved through my business completely differently because of it. And that for me, as again, it's been another thing. There's been so many sort of like ahas. Do you have any questions about that? Because I've got another thing that I'd like to share that's quite key for you in your chart.
No, that was good. And again,
yeah, brilliant. So one thing to know about your chart is you have, just touching on it very, very quickly, each of these, where they're colored in, that's known as definition in your chart. And that means that the themes from each of these different centers, so these shapes are all energy centers, and so it's like your throat center, which is your throat chakra. This is part of your heart chakra. This is your G center, your direction. and for, the energy for love and who you are in the world, how you be who you are. And each of them has these different themes. When those energy centers are colored in, that means that those themes play out a bit more consistently. When they're not colored in, they're either white and they've got a little bit of definition coming off them, like each of these do, or they might be completely white with nothing coming off them at all, which I can't show you on yours because you haven't got that. What that means is that you experience the energy themes of those centers in a more fluid way based on how you're moving through the world, who you're with, what your experiences are, what's going on environmentally, the energy that you're around. So it's like you're amplifying everything that you come into contact with to kind of pick through which things belong to you and which things don't, which things feel good for you in the moment and which things don't. And this center here, so this is the root center, and this center here, which is the head center, which is the crown chakra and the root chakra, because they are open, they act like pressure centers. And what that can mean is you can feel like you are under pressure. So you feel like you're under pressure to know things. And bearing in mind, you have that line 1, so you can see how they play out together. And you can feel like if you don't know it, then it means like you're going to let somebody down or something else is going to come into play. And with the root center, again, depending on who you're around, if you're around somebody that has more of that defined energy, you can feel like you're under pressure to do things based on what they're actually showing up like. So the way that I tend to sort of explain this is in our household. So I have a defined root center. So I have this energy for doing like in that consistent way. My husband's is open. And if I just even say out loud, oh, I need to get some bread and some milk and something else from the shop, before I even blink, he's off, he's gone to the shop, he's come back again. And I'm like, whoa, well, a minute. Like, I never actually said you had to do that. But because he feels this pressure of like, this is my responsibility, I have to take care of it. We're working on that one. It's one of the stories because it's like, it helps you understand where sometimes you might feel like, why do I feel so pulled towards doing something that I don't even understand? And then other center that you have here that's open, this is the emotional solar plexus, and this is what effectively makes you an emotional empath. You are amplifying the emotional energy from all around you. So you're picking up lots of emotions and maybe owning them as yours when they're not always. Maybe kind of like feeling, I feel a certain way and I don't really understand why. So it's good to just ask the question, is this mine? Is this my emotional energy? And just sit with it and be with it and kind of see where it takes you. So that's just one of the things that we would touch on. Usually it takes a good 2 or 3 sessions to get to that because it helps you understand, first of all, how your energy is starting to move through the world in an aligned way to then start to understand some of those other themes that come through. So there's been quite a bit there in, just taking a quick look at your But yeah, so just very quickly going through these reports, what it does in these is it also explains to you about human design, explains about the difference in the language. Then it goes into understanding a bit more about your energy type. So if somebody else was watching this and downloaded theirs and they're a different energy type, they'll pick up different insights about that. I've also explained what each of the types looks like out in the world so that if you're one type, and you've been operating like another type, you're able to see why you might be experiencing burnout, why you might be experiencing this dissatisfaction or this sense of disconnect. So it's to help you make sense of that. And then it goes a bit more into the types. However, with that said, I have lots of plans to do numerous different reports around various different themes. I've been asking my audience questions about all of that to find out what they'd really like. So I can't tell you what you're going to see next because I don't quite know myself. That is going to be there as well. So before we move on from that, I'll just go back to your chart again. Is there any burning question that you would really like the answer to?
Oh, don't know. No, I don't. There probably is and should be, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Well, we can always add it in if it's something that comes up and you want it kind of kept with this interview, we can add it in the comments, in the group, or wherever on the future.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have a think, and then we can do something separate about that, maybe.
Yeah.
Like a gift that I'm passing up on in the moment, but I think maybe that's probably in the chart somewhere that I need
that again.
Thing, yeah.
That might well be, you know, sometimes it's like, well, actually, there's quite a lot to process there. And part of your chart energy here is not always being able to hang on to all of that, because it's like there's that openness here. So you're like picking apart, well, which bits actually do I need right now? And you might sleep on it and wake up tomorrow and go, oh, I wish I'd asked this, you know. So we can always kind of go there with that if that's helpful. But hopefully that's been helpful for you and helps you understand.
No, it is. No, and it's really interesting to see. And I don't think I'd realised that it connected to the chakras as well, because I was saying to you before I hit live, I think obviously I'm learning Reiki this year, and Reiki is connected to the chakra system as well.
Yeah.
And so, you know, probably again, maybe a couple of years ago, I'd heard of chakras.
Yeah.
And that was about it. And then they'd sort of appeared a few times. I had one of my other guests, Leah, as the yoga teacher, and she was talking about them. And again, I hadn't really kind of connected the dots there with the chakra system, and then sort of opening it out even more. And yeah, so it's really interesting to see those things. And I think whatever we work on for our awareness, our enlightenment, and just getting that awareness about ourselves, isn't it? It's really, really powerful to know and to work on and get that good understanding of ourselves, and like say how we tick, and then say knocks into everything, knocks into how you show up, like, which is for your spirituality, but also like say your relationship with your partners, your relationships with your children, co-workers.
Well, that's the thing. And, you know, one of the things that I love about the way that this is going and where I do my training, everything, is they're now looking at doing education around, you know, for parents to work in a different way with their children, because they have a different understanding of how they're moving through the world, but also going into schools and educating about it there, because it can shine a light on things like, you know, kids that have got things like ADHD. Actually, sometimes it might be as much that their energy needs are just not being met. And when you know what that might look like and you allow for that, and, you know, imagine a classroom where you understand that each child has different energetic needs and you allow them to do what they need to do accordingly, rather than you sit down for this long in this lesson and then you learn about this. It just opens up so many different things. So it's a little bit like, oh God, where do I place my focus? But for me, it's always been about midlife women. And I'm now coming to an understanding that through human design. So as I was saying earlier, around the age of 50, we go through this transformative time where these lessons come along and can feel like a big slap round the face, and understanding what they mean and how we get to navigate those, it change how you step into your 50s, how you are doing the rest of your life, so that you get to actually experience it, rather than just feel like it's something where you've been stuck and dissatisfied for too long almost.
Yeah.
So, because I, you know, originally when I started, I was talking about coaching midlife women, but I didn't have a very specific skill set to add into that mix. I was just the stuff that was all around my own experiences and all of the things I've picked up along the way. You know, I've done heaps of different modalities and things, just like you've been talking about, because I'm a 1-3 as well. But also that it was like, oh, so now it makes so much sense to me how and why I'm kind of like in that space with those women.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely fascinating. Well, I'm very grateful for you reading my chart for me, Jacqueline. It's been really, really good. I'm definitely going to have a think about that question, and maybe we can have a chat about what else we can do and how we can help people. And
yeah, definitely. It's interesting as well, because I know, you know, obviously when we first worked together, it was on the bundle, and I was just stepping into human design and I didn't have anything to bring to it that was about that. And it was like, I know now that if I went in with something like that, I would like, oh yeah, I can bring this to me, I can do that. And it's, it's just, I'm a little bit further along with my own resources as well as everything else. So different
That's the beauty, isn't it? So we're growing. And I think I say often, whenever you get into the bargain, you get into working on yourself. It's just so powerful. I mean, like I say, obviously life has its ups and downs, always has and always will do. But I would definitely wouldn't want to turn back the clock to before I got into any of this awareness and working on things, because I was very much a person where I felt life was happening to me. Whereas now I do feel more like I get to, I genuinely feel steering. I genuinely feel like I can create my future, and that was the thing, that when I first heard the term, because when I first actually got told I was a manifesting generator, the first time I had a chart done, obviously even that word, but I wasn't necessarily feeling like I could manifest anything.
It was really about bringing something from inspiration into form. That's what the manifesting ultimately is. And quite a lot of people hear that term. So you have the manifesting generator and the manifester, and they're about 9% of the population. And people think, well, if I'm not a manifester, then does that mean I can't manifest? And that's an absolute no, straight away. And that's one of the things I like about this recrafted language. So in quantum human design, the manifestor is known as the initiator. They're the person that's there to get the ball rolling. And that feels a lot different. It's a different way to see that energy playing out in the world. So yeah, it is that thing, like you say, when it lands, you kind of go, oh, well, I don't know how that makes me feel. I'm not sure. But yeah, just
well, there is going to be a new bundle soon. I'm hoping to work on weekend to start getting the application process rolling. So watch this space for a new bundle, maybe patching this, and also obviously watch out for Jacqueline's inclusion, because I've already given her the hint that one's going to be opening. Going to get chance place, so there'll be something out there as well. Anybody can go onto your website and get one of a free report done, I believe.
Yeah, right. You can, if you just go on the homepage, which is jacquelinekent.co.uk, there's a nice big button that says get your free report. So that then you go and find out. Yeah, just my free report.
Okay, well, everybody head there who's catching this live replay podcast or YouTube, wherever you find us. And then Jacqueline, anywhere that you see one of the live videos, feel free to drop your website link underneath as well.
Brilliant.
People can find you as well.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Well, lovely to have the chat today. We'll end the stream, and thank you very much for coming along. Bye. Thanks for listening. And don't forget, if you want to boost your life and weight loss the AAA way, check out the relevant links for today's show in the description. Speak soon.